Welcome to the next module of accident research and investigation. So before we go ahead, let's have a look about that what we had studied in the previous module. So we have described the various aspects of accidents. We had a discussion about relative facts about the accidents. We had gone through about the accident weed. Uh, we have discussed about the various aspects of accident studies. We have gone through the concept of accident, those who are near misses. Apart from this, we have discussed the dangerous occurrence, various outcomes of accidents, then accident causation theories. So, when we were discussing about the accident causation theories, we had gone through the various models of these theories. So, couple of models we have discussed in the last module. So, we are just going through other models of those accident causation theory. So, the next is our epidemiological theory. This epidemiological theory of the accident causation, this holds that the model used for the studying and determining the relationship between environmental factors and disease can be used to study the causal relationship between environmental factor and accident, because the environmental factor is again a very crucial issue. Sometimes some accidents may lead to destroy the environment, and sometimes it takes a very long time to clear or the environment for the livelihood of mankind. So, this theory is having two aspects. One is the predeposition characteristics, another one is the situational characteristics. So, while we are discussing about the predeposition characteristics, they covers the susceptibility of the people involved within the plant periphery and the environmental aspect, those who are living outside those periphery. They may have include about the various perceptions related to the source, then other environmental factors. While we consider the situational characteristics, they includes the risk assessment by individual. Now, individual may be the worker, may be the outside people. Then they involve the concept of peer pressure. Peer pressure may be attributed to the again those who are living at the vicinity of the plant periphery or within the plant. Then the priorities of supervisor, because this priority is again very crucial in terms of a supervisor, because sometimes the supervisor may experience the pressure related to the production. Sometimes it may experience the pressure related to the environmental aspect. Sometimes it may experience the pressure related to the safety of the plant, plus safety of other aspect like monetary gains, etc. Then it includes the attitude. Attitude may be towards the maximum production or attitude towards the safety of the system. Now, in case of any, you need to have a proper optimization of all these factors. Now, these any kind of imbalance in all these predeposition characteristics or situational characteristics may cause accident. So, proper balance can cause or prevent the accident condition. So, this is extremely important. Now, you may change these predisposition characteristics or situational characteristics as per the requirement. Now, other theory is the systems theory. Now, a system model theory approaches the relationship between the persons and their environment differently. Now, rather than the environment being full of hazard and a person being error prone, the system theory view a harmony between the person, maybe sometimes a host, machine, that is the agency, and the environment. So, again it has the three different variables: person, host, machine, agency, and environment. So, under normal circumstances, the chances of an accident are very low. So that means whenever there is any chance, that means the harmony among person, machine and environment is on the different track. So once someone or something disrupts this harmony by changing one of the component or the relationship between among three, the probability of an accident occurring increases substantially. The reason is that any kind of, suppose you are changing a parameter, then definitely there would be a change in the machine. Then the person though or host must be in a position to adopt those changes so that the imbalance should be stabilized. Now this theory was modified by Friends in 1978. He suggested that considering the 5 calculated risks and benefits. So he has given the 5 risks which are enlisted in this particular slide. That is, one is the job requirement, second is the capabilities and limitations of the worker in relation to her or his job, the potential gain upon succeeding, the potential consequences upon various failure, the potential loss of not attempting the task. Sometimes you may not be in a position to follow the guidelines or follow the orders given by your superiors, then there may be a chance that you may suffer a substantial loss, sometimes the loss of job, sometimes the loss of any kind of you can say the bonus or other thing. So you may suffer this type of aspect. So you must consider the potential loss for not attempting any kind of assigned task. Sometimes what kind of potential gain you may have once you have succeeded that particular job assigned to you. Sometimes you may need to assess that what kind of the potential consequences may happen upon the failure of any kind of thing. So he analyzed all these 5 calculated risks. Sometimes job requirement may pose certain restrictions, so you have to consider all, you may have to take the calculated risk, and sometimes it may be beneficial and sometimes it may not be. Then you need to assess the capabilities and the limitation of the worker in relation to his or her job. Then you must be in a proper position to assess this thing. Now this a system model, this view sees a harmony between the man, machine and environment that we have discussed in previous slides. So under normal circumstances, the chances of an accident are very low. That means all 3 parameters or all 3 approaches, they are working well in order. So once someone or something is imbalance, or sometimes it may happen that some cause disrupts this harmony, then there may be a chance that the accident may happen. Now in this particular figure, we have shown this particular aspect, and we can explain this thing more precisely. So once the host, the machine and the environment, all 3 are in a good condition, then there is no problem. But if anyone or all 3 they faces the problem, then there may be a chance of certain overlapping, and this causes the problems in decision making, and this may cause a severe risk, and this risk may attributed to the cause of an accident. So you need to take the proper feedback of those accidents so that you can adopt the corrective measures among all 3 aspects or all 3 parameters. So once you analyze or once you assess the risk, then based on those risks you can assign the task which gives the feedback that your task is unsuccessful. It provides the feedback to all 3 stakeholders to adopt the corrective measures. So that is the system theory. Now another theory is the multiple causation theory. It is an outgrowth of the domino theory which we have discussed in the previous module. Now it postulates that for a single accident there may be many contributory factors. There may be certain causes, there may be certain sub causes, and that certain combinations of these things give rise to an accident or sometimes multiple accidents. So, the major contribution of this multiple causation theory is that very rarely it can happen that there will be an accident because of a single cause or act. Now, according to this theory, the contributory factor can be grouped into several categories, but the majority there are two categories. One is related to the behavioral and then second is the environmental. So, behavioral theory, this category includes the factor pertaining to the worker such as improper attitude, sometimes because of limitations of training, they may be attributed to the lack of knowledge, and the lack of knowledge may lead to the lack of skills to handle the scenario, and inadequate physical or mental condition, maybe because of some variety of reasons, maybe because of the family issues, maybe because of some job stress, etc. So, these contributing factors may lead to the accident. The other is the environmental aspect. Now, this category includes improper guarding of other hazardous work element and degradation of equipment through use and unsafe procedures. Now, this type of things may happen during the course of multiple use or prolonged use of equipment. One example is that suppose you are using particular equipment for a long time without any kind of maintenance or repair or a modification, then it may happen that the wear and tear may possible. So, the condition may become the unsafe. Now, those unsafe condition may contribute towards the accident. Another example is that suppose you are using a pulley system which is duly guarded by the fencing or the covers. Now, continuous use of that particular thing may be because of the vibration, maybe because of other environmental conditions, the fencing is degraded. So, and if you have not taken care of any kind of repairing or modification or a good housekeeping, then it may lead to the unsafe condition or unsafe protocol, and this may lead to an accident. So, these environmental factors are again important under the head of a multiple causation theory. Now, the other theory is the pure chance theory. Now, according to this theory, every one of any given set of worker has an equal chance of being involved in an accident. So, it further implies that there is no signal discernible pattern of event that leads to an accident. So, under this theory, all accidents are treated as corresponding to Henrich's act of God, and it is held that there exist no interventions to prevent them. Another theory, that is the biased liability theory. Now it is based on the fact that once a worker is involved in an accident, the chances of the same worker becoming involved in future accidents are either increased or decreased as compared to the rest of the worker. So, you may say, in other words, the chances may not become stagnant, because sometimes it may increase or sometimes it may decrease. And this again this liability theory suggests that because if any accidents, suppose for an example accident happens, then the worker may be charged or it may be trained. So, if it is charged, then probably he may not be in a mental condition to repair the things or to enhance its mental ability. In that particular case, the involvement of worker has become decreased. Sometimes it may happen that by any means the worker is involved in any kind of accident, and then if it is being trained or it has been you can say got the knowledge of that particular incident, then it may be in a position to decrease the ability of the accident probability. So in that particular case, both the things increased or decreased may happen. Now this theory contributes very little, if anything at all, towards developing the preventive action for avoiding the accidents. Another theory is related to the accident proneness theory. Now it maintains that within a given set of worker, there exists a subset of worker who are more liable to be involved in an accident. Now you have to find out those subset of workers to make your process safe. So researchers have not been able to prove this theory conclusively because most of the research work has been poorly conducted and most of the findings are contradictory and inconclusive. One of the foremost reason is that the experimental determination of all the accidents is extremely difficult. So therefore, this theory is not generally accepted. Now it is felt that if indeed this theory is supported by any empirical evidence at all, it probably accounts for only a very low proportion of accident without any statistical significance, because statistical significance or statistical data is extremely difficult in this case. Another model is the Reason-Swiss cheese model. So this was given by James Reason, and the James Reason Swiss cheese model was originally proposed in 1990. So each layer of defense is represented by a slice of Swiss cheese, and the possible problem or failure in that defense are represented by the holes in the cheese, and these holes in the Swiss cheese they are deliberately created. So there are two type of failures that can occur, either active or latent. The active failures are unsafe acts that directly contribute to an accident, while latent failure are conditions that exist that may lay dormant for a period of time until they lead to an accident. So sometimes there may be a scenario where the things are there, but they are dormant, they are not contributing any kind of activity within the process area. But if they find the suitable time, then it may be populated and it may lead to an accident. So these are called the latent failure. Now another example of the latent failure could be the lack of a policy describing how a given work task should be completed safely. For an accident to happen, the holes they are like this, these holes are line up, then no layer of defense caught the problem. Now if holes they do not line up, then the problem was caught and no accident occurs like this. These holes are line up, then there may be chance that no accident occurs. Now if these holes are not aligned, then there may be chances that the system may diverted to some unsafe condition. Another theory is that energy transfer theory. Now there is a source, there is a path and there is a receiver for every change of energy. Now this change of energy resulted in a damage of equipment or worker injury. So this theory is useful for determining the injury causation and evaluating energy hazard and controlled methodology. Sometimes you can adopt or you can develop the strategies which are either preventive or limiting or ameliorating with respect to the energy transfer. The control of energy transfer at the source can be achieved by the various reasons. Three reasons are enlisted here. That is, you may eliminate the source, you may change the changes made to the design or specification of elements of the workstation, and sometimes the preventive maintenance. The path of energy transfer can be modified by various enclosure of the path. Sometimes you may need to install the different barriers to prevent the things. Sometimes by the installation of absorbers and it's very common in chemical engineering. Sometimes by changing or providing the positioning of various isolators. Now, the receiver of energy transfer, it can be assisted by adopting the different measures like limitation of exposure and the use of personal protective equipment. Remember, we have already discussed this PPE in various modules. Another or you can say the important concept is management oversight and risk tree, that is referred as MORT. The management oversight and risk tree is a complex analytical procedure that provides the disciplined method for determining the causes and contributing factor of various accidents. Now, it has provided a technique for thorough searching investigation of occupational accident and analysis of safety program. Now, this MORT is sufficiently searching and revealing that full scale analysis of only a few serious accident or accident will point to many needed program improvements. Now, few MORT analysis give more useful information than the less rigorous study of large number of accident. Now, usually this is the risk analysis protocol. So, structurally MORT is a logic tree in the form of a chart that illustrate a long series of interrelated questions. Now, you may recall the fault tree analysis and event tree analysis in which the different interrelated things or interrelated scenarios, they are linked together, and there are several set of questions being framed to interlink all those things. So, these questions, they are applied in sequence, and these questions probe factors that constitute three major area of concern: specific oversights and omissions, assumed risk and general management system, weaknesses, etc. So, while similar in some aspects to fault tree analysis, but it is, you can say that it is a modified version of our old fault tree analysis. So, MORT is more generalized and has several innovative characters. So, it identifies nearly 300 specific problematic areas, each having a relevant question. Now, this management oversight and risk tree, that is MORT investigation, utilizes a color coding system to help identify those areas on the event tree where additional investigation or analysis is required. So, you can say that this is that is why we are saying that this is the modified version of event tree and fault tree analysis. So, the MORT is a formal disciplined logic decision tree to systematically relate and integrate a wide variety of safety concepts like sequential roles of different energy barriers to energy transfer, error, change and risk. Now, let us have a discussion about the objective of a MORT. The objective of a MORT analysis is to understand how specific targets were exposed to harm, damage or unwanted change, and to explain in terms of risk management. Now, this MORT model attempts to illustrate that the causes of an accident can be grouped into 5 different categories. Now, these categories are enlisted over here: the task, the material or you can say equipment, the environment associated with the process, the human factor. It is not only with the human factor related to the process, but also to the other environmental, those who are living at the vicinity. The management, that is the cultural fashion or the cultural factor, because earlier we had a discussion that management play a very vital role for the introduction of safety aspect within the process arena. So, let us have a look about the work and task. Now you need to frame various questions related to the MOT, that is management, oversight and risk-free. So work and task related questions are that, was the actual safe work protocol used? Again, it is a very you can say the deliberated issue, because every time you need to you must aware about the entire process plant arena, plant layout, etc. Then the second question may be that, was actual method used for the current procedure unsafe? So you need to analyze the thing, that whatever safety protocol you have implemented to for the safe operation of the process, if it fails, then what was it, was unsafe condition, or what are the causes those attributed for this unsafe condition. Now, were the appropriate tools and materials available and used? This is again a very beautiful question, because it gives you an opportunity to analyze that you are having all the things with you, or you are not you are not having the required tools or material for the safe operation. Now, next question may be, were safety devices working properly? Again, it is a very good question, because it gives you an idea that whether the proper housekeeping, maintenance, modification protocols were followed or not, safety drills were performed or not. So, it gives you an idea about all those activities. Then last question may be that, was actual lockout used when necessary? Sometimes it may happen when you are not in a position to control the unsafe condition, then you may have to adopt the concept of lockout, so that you can transfer the workers or a human factor to the safe arena. So, in that particular case, you may have to analyze that actual lockout protocol was used when it was required. That means the things are not in the control of all the safety devices available at the arena. For most of the question, you need to have a follow-up question, that is, if not, then why? See, let us go back to the previous question. Was actual safe work protocol procedure was used? Now, if not, then why? What was the reason? Because this why word is extremely important. It may reflect the satisfactory answer of this why word may give you a very good information about the system procedure, because if the things are not working properly, then there may be certain lacuna. Then it gives you an idea that, gentlemen, you need to take a corrective measures to make your process safe, like, were safety devices working properly? Now, if the answer is not, then why? Maybe because of the lack of training, maybe because of certain things maybe malfunctioning, maybe the power supply issue, maybe certain other issues. So, whenever you are in a position to answer this why, it gives you the corrective measures. Now, second aspect is the material. Then again you need to frame and you need to ask the question, was there an equipment failure? If yes, then definitely you need to take the certain corrective measures for the future reference. Then you may ask the question, what caused it to fail? Sometimes maybe the cooling water supply failed, sometimes maybe the sensor they didn't work. Then next question may be, was because of any poor design or a poor maintenance? Now if the temperature sensor fails, then definitely it may be covered under the head of poor maintenance. Now sometimes it may happen that you are forcefully, or sometimes you are compelled for overproduction, and your system is not designed for this kind of overproduction, then it may be a chances of happening poor design. Then next question may be, were any hazardous material involved? Sometimes it may happen. The reason is, sometimes the raw material may contaminated, sometimes any kind of byproduct, side product, it may be involved because of the certain process parameter variation. Now, next question may be, were they clearly identified? So, in case if it is the part and parcel of say the raw material, then definitely the question may be asked that why when the raw material was received, then why the proper quality check was not being performed. So, if they have clearly identified, then you can go ahead with other options. So, were they clearly identified? This is again a very important question. Was a less hazardous material possible or available? Now, if you remember in industrial hygiene module, we had a discussion about the substitution. So, in case if you have any opportunity to use the less hazardous material, or if it is available, then try to use it. Sometimes if you are in a position to compromise with the yield or conversion with respect to the economics, etc., then it is a very good option to use the less hazardous material. Now, if it is they are available, then why you did not use? Then other question may be, was raw material substandard, could have an effect? Now, if your raw material is having substandard, maybe sometimes certain impurities, then it may create a problem. Now, should personal protective equipment be used? So, sometimes maybe if you are working in a toxic environment or maybe working in a other hazardous environment, may be attributed to the mechanical aspect, then the personal protective equipment be used. Now, for each time, if question reveals that yes, then investigation team must ask why this situation was allowed to exist. So, once you are performing any kind of accident investigation, you may frame these questions, and if the answer is yes, then the investigation team should ask this question, why this situation was allowed to exist. Suppose if there was an equipment failure, then why this situation was allowed? Or if any kind of raw material was contaminated like this, then why the system was allowed to go ahead? Because sometimes it may happen that these contamination may create the hazardous scenario. So, this type of scenario must be addressed. The next thing is the environment. The physical environment, especially sudden changes, there are also some factors that can help to identify the cause of an accident. For these type of things, the sample questions may be like this, that what were the weather condition? So, the meteorological department may provide the exact answer. How was the temperature condition? Was it too hot or too cold? Was poor housekeeping a problem? This is again a very good question. Sometimes the solvent may be drained to the sewage, and without treating they may get discharged to the local canal or sometimes to the river. So, this may attributed to the poor housekeeping, and these solvent may be hazardous to the environment. These solvent may create the flammability issues. These solvent may create the inhalation problem. So, this was an example. So, was the poor housekeeping a problem? Was there adequate lighting? Because sometimes if lighting in the poor condition, then it may create the problem within the plant. Was any type of noise heard? Because sometimes rumbling sound or some time of any whispering sound, and may be a very good indication of faultiness of a process or a system. Were there any air contaminants, dust, fumes, etc.? Because it may provide a very good indication that the system is on the wrong track. Other aspect like human factor, the physical health and mental conditions of a person directly or indirectly involved in the event must be explored. Then the several questions may be asked by the investigating team, that were the workers too old or too young for work? Maybe sometimes the workers are, you can say, the too old for that particular assigned job, and sometimes they are too young for that assigned job. So the investigation team may ask this question: were the workers experienced for the particular work? That reflects the proper training of those workers. If they are not tuned for that particular work, then again it may create a problem. Had they been adequately trained? So this question is linked with the previous one, and the reason is that if they are not properly trained and if they are assigned to do that particular job, then this may lead to the problem of accident. Were they physically fit for the work? Sometimes heavy loading or unloading job, it may create a problem. So the investigation team must assess that the workers, those who are assigned for that particular job, they are fit for the work or not. What was the health and mental status of the worker? Were they stressed or tired? Sometimes because of the production requirement, they may be assigned to do the overtimes. Then there may be problem of stress, there may be a problem of tiring. So they need to assess that what was the health and the mental status of work. If they are stressed and they are tired, so sometimes the mistakes may do happen. So these are the certain questions that should be asked by the investigating team to find out the root cause, because these are the very good input for the further studies. Then apart from this, the certain questions must be framed related to the management or organizational behavior. Now the management holds a legal responsibility of the workplace, and therefore the role of supervisors or higher management persons, they must always be considered in an accident investigation. Because one thing must be remember, that whenever there is for sake of an example, whenever there is a need of any kind of a training or employment of a old or young worker, everywhere the management is involved, because it is the management who tuned the system in such a way to hire the too old or a too young person. So it's a proper responsibility or a legal responsibility of management to look into the fact. So as far as these questions are concerned, the investigation team must ask, were the safety rules documented and communicated? Because based on the regulatory body directives, based on the local authority issues, the safety rules must be documented, followed, and it should be well communicated to the all stakeholders, including the workers, including the middle management level, etc. Now, had the procedures been developed to address them? Because sometimes all the workers may not have properly educated. So you need to adopt a proper procedure for proper communication of those safety rules to them. Sometimes the play cards, sometimes the safety drills, sometimes the safety training. This need to be organized for the proper communication of those safety rules to the stakeholders. Now, once you communicated, you documented, then you need to ask a question, were these safety rules being enforced? Because sometimes maybe because of the lackness, sometimes maybe because of reluctancy, we may not follow all those safety rules. So there may be a chance that the accident may take place. So it is the responsibility of the management to enforce those safety rules. Now, was there adequate supervision? Again, this question is important, because if you have documented the rules, communicated, then developed, then you provided the training, you provided the protocol for the enforcement, then there is a question that whether those things were under supervision by a supervisor or a management, then this is a big question. Now, the last question may be like that the were proper training being given to the worker. Again, this is related to the previous one, that all the workers must be trained, because it is again essential for the good health of the organization. Other questions may be like that, had hazards been previously identified? Again, it is a responsibility of the management that they need to find out that these hazards must be previously identified. Were hazard eliminated or adequately controlled? So, once you have identified, then it is a responsibility of management that either you need to eliminate or you need to control them, because sometimes it may happen that the management may not be in a position to eliminate those hazards, because hazards are everywhere. So, the thing required is that they must be adequately controlled. Now, work procedures available or followed, because sometimes in any industries they are having the standard operating protocols, SOPs. So, the question may be asked that if you are having the SOPs, then was it followed, and if not, maybe the chance that it may not be available with the management. So, they may ask, the investigator team may ask that were the work protocol available, and if available, then why it was not followed. Now, were the proper maintenance and calibration done for the equipment use? Because this is again a very important for the good health of any company, because maintenance sometimes because of the prolonged use, some wear and tear may be possible, and this may be catastrophic. So, it is necessary that the proper maintenance protocol must be followed. Now, if another foremost requirement is the calibration, because sometimes the pressure, temperature, volumetric sensors may not be calibrated, and it may give the faulty reading, and any kind of say temperature failure or a temperature mismatch with the protocol may be catastrophic. So, they may ask that question that the proper maintenance and the calibration protocol be followed. Were regular safety inspection carried out? Now, this is again a very crucial, because the safety inspection, it tells you that whether the safety devices or your process is working properly or not within the regulations or within the SOPs being developed. So, it provides the corrective measures. So, this question may be asked that were the regular safety inspection be carried out or not. Now, on the basis of safety inspection, if anybody noticed that there are certain unsafe conditions, so the question may be asked whether all unsafe conditions be corrected or not. Now, some investigators may prefer to place some of the sample questions in in different categories. So, it is, you can say, the prerogative of those investigators. However, the categories are not important as long as each pertinent question is asked. Now, these questions must be very specific. Obviously, there is a considerable overlap between various categories. Now, this reflects the situation in real life. So, it should be emphasized that the sample question which we studied in different slides do not make up a complete checklist, but are some examples only. So, investigators may frame their own questions as per the situation requirement. Now, this MORT incorporates traditional safety concepts such as hazard review, life cycle, human factor engineering, and the job safety analysis, and it as well as the innovative safety concepts such as the barrier analysis, the effect of change and energy transfer phenomena. So, this aspect focuses on rational assessment of a management control system. Management program elements, they are specified in extensive details and judged to be adequate or less than adequate. So, once completed, this SMART procedure provides an all important visibility to the accident analysis process. Now, it enables the investigator to review the findings, present them meaningfully to others, alter the analysis as additional facts warrant, and the record the total effect for later use. Now, this SMART represents a major theoretical and practical contribution to safety aspect or a safety technology. So, in this module, we have discussed about various theories and different models, and in detail we have studied about the management oversight and risk trees. In next module, we will discuss about the accident investigation protocol, and for your ready reference, we have enlisted various references at the end of this module. Thank you very much.